You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro. Joining us today, Mr. Michael Borg. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Wednesday, 22nd day of October, 2025. Thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. We do 2 live broadcasts every trading day. The first broadcast is our live training room. To get in there, you got to be one of our traders or taking the 1-week free trial. If you've not yet taken your 1-week free trial, go to mytradingiq.com. And at the very top of the page, there's a big purple button. You can't miss it. Click it. Fill out the form. We'll get your indicators up and indicating. Your trial will officially start tomorrow. And you'll get 5 consecutive trading days. There's no credit card required. And the weekend does not count against you. So you don't have to wait till next Monday to get started. You can get rolling right now. You're still going to get 5 consecutive trading days. And you're not just getting access to the live training room. No. You get access to everything. We treat you like you are already a member, a passport holder, with access to everything for 5 consecutive trading days. Because at the end of the trial, we want you to be able to make a well-informed, intelligent decision as to whether or not trading is right for you. So again, it's mytradingiq.com, purple buttons at the very top of the page. Today will be a little different broadcast. Michael is out today, so he will not be joining us, and I will not be here tomorrow or Friday. You get to be my age, you don't know how many more birthdays you have, so I'm going to start enjoying them. So, can't remember the last time I took 2 days off back to back, creating, a 4-day weekend? Wow. Don't I feel special? Well, I am the birthday boy, so anyway. But that's not until tomorrow. So don't start dancing until midnight tonight. Okay? All right. Well, when the live training room ends each day at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, we take a 30-minute break, and then we come back for this broadcast, the noon broadcast, which is open to the public. Everybody, everywhere on planet Earth with an internet-connected device. There's 2 different ways to join this afternoon broadcast live. The best way, because you only have to do it once, go to mytradingiq.com, and this time scroll down the page to where it says noon broadcast. Click the link, fill out the 30-second registration form, and you're done. What will happen going forward is every trading day you'll get an email about an hour before the broadcast starts. In the email, there will be a link. So at 12 noon Eastern, all you have to do is click the link in the email, and it automatically logs you into our platform. The benefit there is you have access to the question box, so you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. Now, there will be days you're out of the office, away from the desktop, but you still want to join live. And some days you'll be busy. You can't join live, but you want to get caught up later. You can do both of those via our YouTube channel, which is easy to remember. youtube.com/CFRN. That's the Christian Financial Radio Network since 2005. But all you have to remember is youtube.com/CFRN. Not only do we broadcast live every trading day on our YouTube channel, as we're doing right now, simulcasting, we also archive each and every daily broadcast. Currently, there are over 2,900 daily episodes archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. youtube.com/CFRN. On the left side of the screen, you'll see our schedule for each afternoon broadcast. Normally, at the top of the hour, 1 o'clock, Michael joins us for a recap of the live training room, but he is out today. Tomorrow, he'll be back, and I'll be gone. I'll be gone tomorrow and Friday, as I mentioned. Okay? So let's get going and dive into our daily devotional. The topic that we're on right now, and that will be on for a couple weeks, is learning to share your faith. Many of us have been believers for a very long time. And when we're at church or a church function, we find it very easy to talk about the things of God because we're surrounded with like-minded brethren. But put us in a secular setting, maybe at the office, maybe at the soccer club, wherever, and all of a sudden we start stuttering. Yeah. And we just, it's not that we can't get the words out, it's maybe we don't know what words to say. And see, that's the purpose of the Holy Spirit. Once you become a believer and you have an infilling followed by an indwelling of the Holy Spirit in those situations, all you got to say to yourself, you don't have to move your lips here, Holy Spirit, help me seize the opportunity to share the gospel. And then shut up. Now I'm telling you, now shut up. But this is when your lips actually spring into action. And the power of the Holy Spirit flows through you and shares with that individual or that group whatever's appropriate for that situation, for that time, for that season. Trust me, there's no one better at reading the room than the Holy Spirit. Okay? Our scripture today, Colossians 4, verses 5 through 6. I'll be sharing it from the Message translation. Use your heads as you live and work among outsiders. Don't miss a trick. Make the most of every opportunity. Be gracious in your speech. The goal is to bring out the best in others in a conversation. Not put them down, not cut them out. Again, that was Colossians 4, verses 5 through 6. So today's topic, exploring outside. Spiritual outsiders are those who have not entered into salvation through Jesus, the true gate to life. John 10:9. Some outsiders are spiritually near. Others will be far away. Some may be religious. Others irreverent. Some live good lifestyles. Others not so much. but all who haven't entered through Christ are outsiders. Paul instructs us to be wise, making the most of every opportunity with outsiders. Though each situation is different, we begin by starting where they are, which requires us to explore. To make the most of a situation, use questions to discern if a person is open to talk and to discover insights into their spiritual journey. With wisdom and genuine care, you will likely get to know the person better, deepen the relationship, and have an opportunity to talk about Jesus. The best way to discover where a person is spiritually is simply to ask. I encourage you, brainstorm a list of outsiders that you know or could get to know. List individuals by name and include groups such as classmates, co-workers, neighbors. Now look over the list. How well do you know the spiritual journey of your acquaintances? Again, I encourage you, explore as many as possible during this month where we're talking about learning to share your faith. And this topic will extend over into November. Let's pray. Lord, help us to walk in wisdom towards those around us, making the most of every opportunity. Let our words be full of grace and seasoned with truth, so that we may reflect Christ in every conversation. Teach us to listen well, speak kindly, and represent you with integrity. It's in Jesus' name we believe and pray. And everybody said, Amen. Amen, and happy Wednesday. Let me give you the numbers from around the world. We'll start in the U.S. here with the cash markets, or the indices as they're called. Let me refresh this one more time. Make sure I've got the latest data for you. Okay. Currently, the Dow down 180 points. NASDAQ down 204, almost 1%. S&P 500 down 30. The Russell 2000, our man in the street, down 32 points. Now that's well over 1.25%, approaching 1.5%. And the commodity basket, crude oil up $1.41, trading 58.64 last. That's a gain of 2.5%. Gold down again today, $60, trading 4,048.40 last. That's a drop of 1.5%. Silver up 6 cents, trading 47.77 last. And the Asian markets at the close, the Nikkei dropped 8 points. The Shanghai fell 2.5. The Hang Seng down 245 points, just shy of 1%. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE up 88. I think that's the only green on the screen. The DAX down 178. The CAC down 51. So that gave us a red day in Asia. It was a mixed day for the UK, thanks to the FTSE and those 88 points. And it is a big red radio Wednesday here in the US of A. Is it coming? Is it finally here? Well, when we go to the charts, we'll be able to better discern what the future holds. Looking at global news, Japan elected conservative Sanai Takachi as its first female prime minister yesterday, after a coalition deal between her Liberal Democratic Party and the right-leaning Japan Innovation Party. Takachi, 64, succeeds Shigeru Ishiba, who resigned last month after election losses left the LDP without an outright majority in parliament for the first time in 15 years. An ally of former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, the new leader, Takachi, supports conservative fiscal and defense policies and has pledged to strengthen national security, expand semiconductor production, and increase energy self-sufficiency. She called for U.S. cooperation on regional defense, and trade is expected to meet with Donald Trump next week. Some critics expressed concerns that her policies could slow progress toward gender equality. Women hold less than 16% of lower house seats and about 10% of cabinet posts. Japan ranked 118 out of 148 countries in the 2025 World Gender Gap Report, the lowest among G7 countries. The U.S. ranked 42. Well, I know Trump's done his part. He has put a lot of women in a lot of powerful positions. But it's based on merit, not on gender, not on what you were born or who you profess to be, but actually on your ability. Imagine that. A merit-based world. When I was a young man, I was a salesman. Because when you looked in the help wanted ads, the only jobs that said no experience, which is what I had a lot of as a young man, were sales jobs. Most of them, commission only. Now the government has stepped in and employers are now required to provide at least the minimum. If you don't sell enough of whatever, you got to get paid at least the equivalent of the minimum wage. So most sales companies have now gone the independent contractor route, which is a very dangerous tightrope to walk with the IRS. There's some very clear definitions of what an independent contractor is and isn't. If you tell a person what time to work, where to work, and give them the tools to do the job, guess what? That's an employee. True story. So, as a young man, turned out sales was something I could do. And I began to gain experience. And pretty soon, wherever I went to work, pretty soon I was running the place. Not bragging or boasting, just trying to get a point across here. And it led me to a place where I felt, you know what? The world should be on commission. Because back in the 80s, I was making $1,000 a week and not selling drugs. Okay? Now, I'm not proud of what I did with that $1,000 a week, but nonetheless, if you remember the 80s, if you're old enough, and most of our audience is, $1,000 a week in the 80s, that was a it was a pretty good gig, especially for someone without a college education and a job that we only worked like 6 hours a day. So my thought was the world should be on commission. Policemen, school teachers, you name it. Though that's how the world should get paid, based on merit. I mean, the Bible says if you don't work, you don't eat. It's in the scripture. Now, it also says that we are to take care of those who are unable to work. And I support that 100%. But I also know that our welfare system has been horribly abused by people who can work but don't want to work. And because they don't want to work, they create this personality that appears to be unable to work. There was a lady that gained some notoriety a number of years back. What was she called? The food stamp queen or the welfare queen? She was knocking down 50 grand a year because she had figured out how to get her hand into every government, pot that was available. And where she messed up was once she maxed out everything she qualified for, she began to create these new personalities. Yeah. And she got away with it for a long time. Did she ever go to jail? I don't know. It's considered a white collar. It's probably considered a brown collar crime. I don't know. But back to merit-based. Jeff asks, where were you living then? Arizona? I was, Jeff. I moved here as a young man of 21. I've been here since 1980, I believe. My wife and I married in 83. I never intended to stay here. I lived in San Diego, which is where I met my wife, who was my girlfriend. And she was moving back to Arizona to take care of her elderly grandmother. And she asked me if I would help her move her furniture from San Diego back to Phoenix. And I said, sure, I'll help you. So we got her furniture here and we got it unloaded. And then one day became a week. And then a week became a month. And pretty soon it dawned on me, dude, you either need to get back to San Diego or get a job. I really wanted to go back to San Diego, but I didn't have the money to go back and get an apartment and get all set up again. And so I kind of, by default, had to go to work. And that was the work I did until I was much older. And then I went into the ministry at 37, tiptoed in. By 2003, I was pastor of a church in downtown Phoenix. But, that's a lifetime ago. But great question. Thanks for asking. So, again, I think everybody should still be paid based on merit. Okay? Not because you're a woman, not because you're a man, not because you're a man pretending to be a woman or vice versa. The most qualified person to do the job should get the job. Period. So, all of that came about because we were talking about Japan's new female prime minister and how women hold less than 16% of lower house seats and about 10% of cabinet posts. Japan ranked 118 out of 148 countries in the 2025 World Gender Gap Report, the lowest among G7 countries. The U.S. ranked 42. And Trump has appointed quite a few smart, powerful women to work as part of his cabinet and administration. And so despite what Mark Cuban says, my arch nemesis, Trump is not afraid of intelligent women. All right, moving on. Warner Brothers Discovery said it's one company now, said yesterday it's weighing a full or partial sale after receiving unsolicited interest. The news comes roughly 4 months after the conglomerate announced plans to split its struggling cable networks from its more profitable studio and streaming arms, creating two publicly traded companies. The HBO and CNN parent company did not disclose potential buyers, but Skydance Media founder David Ellison has reportedly expressed interest. Ellison, the son of Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison, acquired CBS owner Paramount for roughly $8 billion in August, forming the company Paramount Skydance. He also bought conservative news startup The Free Press for about $150 million this month. Streaming company Netflix and NBC owner Comcast are reportedly interested parties as well. Oh, I bet Comcast would love to get their hands on that. Warner Brothers Discovery said it will continue working towards splitting the company by mid-2026 as it evaluates offers. Separately, the company yesterday raised prices for HBO Max streaming plans, and shares closed up 11% yesterday. Now, a tale of two White Houses. Oh my goodness. Some of you, I'm sure, saw the luncheon in the Rose Garden yesterday, right? President Trump talked freely with, and what's her name? Binder. She was on another news broadcast and said that Biden spent more in her time interacting with the press and the public far more than Donald Trump does. She said it with a straight face. Of course, she's out on a book tour touting her new book. And of course, Kamala has said she is the leader of the Democratic Party. And she also said that in the history of America, there has never been a presidential candidate more qualified than her. I saw her say it with my own eyes. From her lying lips to my ears, she said it. Anyway, the White House began demolition this week to prepare for its $250 million, 90,000 square foot ballroom. Parts of the East Wing's outer walls have been bulldozed, with staffers instructed not to take photographs at President Donald Trump's request. Trump announced plans for the White House ballroom in July and aims to complete the project by the end of his term. The space is expected to seat up to 900 people, over 4 times the capacity of the East Room, which is currently the White House largest event space. You can have a cocktail party there. Trump said he is privately funding the project alongside other donors. That reportedly includes corporate contributions from Apple, Amazon, Google, Palantir, Coinbase, and others. The space will include gilded Corinthian columns, gold and crystal chandeliers, and a checkered marble floor. As President Trump has brought authority to make updates to the White House complex, construction is typically also overseen by federal agencies. If you Google history of White House renovation projects, I'm trying to remember which president it was. He gutted the whole thing. He lived across the street for a couple years. I mean, he gutted the entire White House. So this is not like the first time any president, it's part of our rich history as a nation. Presidents come along and say, hey, the White House is awesome. I can make it better. But all of those previous upgrades and guttings and whatnot, guess who paid for it? Right, taxpayers. Yeah. But who's paying for this? President Trump and the companies I mentioned. But I saw a clip from The View and something off of MSNBC or CNN, wherever. And they're literally weeping. Oh, our beautiful White House is being destroyed by this madman. Here's a guy spending $250 million to make the White House better. So when foreign dignitaries come, it's a ballroom befitting the most powerful nation on the face of the earth. But the left are in hysterics, just clutching their pearls and literally weeping. It's pretty funny. Anyway, I don't want to laugh at anybody, so let's look at the Wall Street. For oil baron John D. Rockefeller and Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, there were namesake philanthropic foundations. Walmart heiress Alice Walton, likely the world's richest woman, built the renowned Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art in Arkansas. Then there's President Trump's 90,000 square foot ballroom, which we were just talking about, which will be attached to the White House. One solid legacy contender is J.P. Morgan Chase's new $3 billion skyscraper in Midtown Manhattan. The New York skyline is about to change. Even when CEO Jamie Dimon, who is 69 years old, is no longer running the nation's largest bank, its audacious new home at 270 Park Avenue will endure long after. You might say that the building stands as both a symbol of J.P. Morgan's dominance over U.S. banking and the bank's faith in New York City as the financial capital of the world, and a piece of Dimon's legacy. We basically move paper, money. We're not used to doing this, Dimon said Tuesday, minutes ahead of the official ribbon cutting for the 60-story headquarters. Now you have something permanent that will be here for 50 or 100 years. So thank you. The massive 6-year project included rerouting a portion of the subway system and raising the enormous bronze-clad structure. What is left is an all-electric spire that sprawls a quarter-mile into the sky and will house the majority of the bank's sprawling 24,000-person New York City workforce. Bedecked wall-to-wall with travertine limestone, the building's lobby comes complete with a 3D printed bronze flagpole brandishing an American flag, which is blown by machines to match the wind speed outside. But wait, there's more. The building includes a fitness center, on-site medical services, a 19-restaurant food hall with food-to-desk delivery, an Irish pub, and indoor lighting synced to the human body's circadian rhythm. I'm not making that up. The building's designers even developed the office's own signature scent. You can't make that up. The structure also offers very high ceilings, according to renowned British architect Norman Foster, who served as the building's lead architect and is known for designing iconic landmarks, including the Gherkin in London and Apple's circular spaceship facility in Cupertino, California. This is a 60-story building, Foster said while speaking earlier at the same event. If it was a conventional building in terms of its floors to ceilings, it would probably be well over 100 stories. Again, they have very high ceilings, okay? For meditation star Deepak Chopra, who also advised on the new building's health and wellness elements, the building is actually alive. I'm not making that up. We dedicate this space not only as a building, but as a living organism of creativity, according to Deepak. Now, I didn't hear anybody on the left complain about that. But we all know how Jamie Dimon, the modern day Willie Sutton, made all his money. He's the guy that was out on the street corner telling you that Bitcoin was a fraud while his traders were inside downstairs buying the dip with every single dime the bank could get its hands on. Now that goes back about 5-6 years. But you can find the news clips. Now, of course, today, Jamie's a big proponent of the crypto. He recognizes it for what it is. He recognized it back then, but, you know, he's Jamie Dimon, so he gets first dibs. So I'm going to say it again because it's a fact. His traders, in fact, that day when he made that announcement out on the street about Bitcoin being a fraud so many years ago, he also said any one of my traders who ever buys Bitcoin will be fired on the spot. Now, do your own research. And the next time you see Jamie Dimon on CNBC or wherever, you know, talking, you'll see him in a little different light. Because if you do your research, you'll find out everything I'm saying is 100% the truth. I know because I was there and I heard it the day it happened. U.S. stocks slipped today after a record-setting session for the Dow as investors fielded the latest wave of earnings in a busy day, highlighted by Tesla and IBM. Let me give you the companies that are reporting today. I got them right here. I'm only going to give you the symbols I recognize. Okay, this morning before the open, GE, AT&T, Hilton, and the Chicago Mercantile Exchange all reported earnings. Today after the close, remember the stock market closes at 4 p.m. Eastern, but futures trade until 5 p.m. Eastern. At 4:07 this afternoon Eastern, Tesla will release earnings. IBM will release their earnings a minute later. And there's no other names in that bunch symbols that I recognize. So, with futures, we hardly ever see gap opens or closes, or gap opens, except on Sunday night when the market has been closed for a day and a half. Now, stocks gap every day because when Wall Street closes, Asia opens and Asian traders trade the same stocks, and then London opens and they trade the same stocks. So by the time Wall Street opens the following day at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, well, a lot's happened overnight. And that gap you see, up or down, it tells you what happened overnight. Traders were buying it or traders were selling it. Okay? In case you ever wondered why there's a gap with stocks on stocks trade around the clock, but Americans only have access right now from 9:30 to 4 p.m. Eastern. According to the New York Stock Exchange, that's going to change next year. They're going to turn it into a 24/7 marketplace, just like crypto. So that's what we have to look forward to. It'll be a whole different world. One day after its strong earnings report, General Motors pushed forward its tech capabilities, revealing new products like eyes-off autonomous driving for its vehicles, in addition to conversational AI to its cars with the help of Google, and a type of robot called a cobot that will help GM assemble its cars of the future. At an event in New York City, GM said it plans to bring eyes-off autonomous driving a step up to its current Super Cruise hands-free assisted driving software, which GM said offers more convenience and safety. Super Cruise is currently offered in 23 vehicles, and the new iteration of Super Cruise hands-free will first start for highway driving, then expand to urban environments, eventually allowing the vehicle to perform errands. You can send your car to the store and the guy will put a pizza in the back seat. Really? It's pretty wild. So, what vehicles is it coming to? Well, the 2028 Cadillac Escalade will have it, and I don't see the other models. But yeah, pretty soon you'll just get in your car and talk to it the way you talk to your phone, the way you talk to your computer. From Bloomberg, the proportion of U.S. companies beating earnings expectations this quarter is the highest in more than 4 years. Well. And Jerome Powell and everybody on the left said the world as we know it was going to come to an end because of Trump and his tariffs. So let me repeat this. The proportion of U.S. companies beating earnings expectations this quarter is the highest in more than 4 years, providing stock investors with relief at a time the rally is slowing. Hey, what goes up must come down. About 85% of S&P 500 firms to have reported third quarter earnings so far have surpassed profit estimates, on course for the best performance since 2021. Who was in office back then? Oh, yeah, that guy. Okay. Well, that explains a lot, doesn't it? It's still early in the season, given that less than a fifth of the index's market capitalization has announced results, but it's an early indication that U.S. profits remain strong in the face of tariffs and an uncertain economy. Well, if money's flowing in and there's record earnings, and we're about to get rid of Jerome Powell early next year, so we can get somebody in there that will actually lower interest rates, why do they still keep referring to it as an uncertain economy? Every economy is uncertain. No one knows what's going to happen next in the world or the market. Anyway, Meta is cutting roughly 600 positions out of the several thousand roles within its superintelligence labs. That's their artificial intelligence unit. The cuts will affect the company's Facebook artificial intelligence research, product-related AI and AI infrastructure units, while sparing the newly formed TBD lab, according to the report, which cited an internal memo. Now, does that mean AI is not working out for them? No. It just means that these people programmed themselves right out of a job. Pretty soon, that department will just be one machine humming away, connected to thousands of data centers around the globe. T. Rowe Price, you've seen the commercials, filed for an actively managed crypto exchange-traded fund yesterday. T. Rowe Price. Who'd have thought? And last from Wall Street, the government shutdown impacts various aspects of Americans' financial lives, including the housing market. Home buyers face stalled loan approvals, sellers juggle delayed closing dates, and furloughed federal employees are left wondering how to make the next month's mortgage payment. It's easy. Call your Democratic senator and representative and tell them to sign or to vote yay instead of nay. That's all it takes. Here's what to know about the impacts, including ways to protect yourself as a homeowner or a buyer. The most immediate impact on the housing market during the shutdown is a slowing of services. Even with the government shutdown, it's still possible to obtain a government-backed loan from agencies like the FHA and VA. But they're operating with significantly reduced staff, so processing times and closing dates are likely to be interrupted. The slowdown has real consequences. While FHA and VA loan applications may continue processing, any step requiring a manual review or federal verification, income checks, or IRS transcripts could be delayed. And for some buyers, this setback can push a deal past its expiration date. One loan program in particular, which supports lower income and rural buyers, has been hit hardest. USDA loans are the most affected, with a complete suspension of new loans issued. Another hitch for buyers and owners during the shutdown: flood insurance. The National Flood Insurance Program is currently closed during the shutdown. Without their services, many mortgages cannot close. Analysts at Home Abroad estimate that 3,600 home closings per day, worth roughly $1.6 billion in daily sales, could be at risk if the NFIP remains closed. And Schumer owns this. He's afraid of being primaried by AOC. And so, the whole Democratic Party is now in the grip of the few far-left progressives that cost the Democrats the most recent election. And since then, have they attempted to become more mainstream? No, far from it. You saw the foolishness this weekend on Saturday. And it's no grassroots movement. It's planned, it's plotted. The costumes, the signs, the tactical gear. Why somebody can't follow the money? Now, I know, somebody like Soros can make it very difficult to follow the money, because this shell company owns this shell company, which owns this shell company, which owns this shell company, which disperses funds for quote-unquote needy people. Now, a lot of that used to be your tax dollars. And that's really what this holdup is all about. The left wants to use your tax dollars, $1.5 trillion, to make sure people who have chosen, who have made a conscious choice to be in our country illegally, pay for their health care. Even give them sex change operations if that's what they want. The left wants to give to people in this country illegally. And if you're in this country illegally, I'm sorry, that makes you a criminal, okay? The left wants to buy them things and give them paychecks and provide transportation and all kinds of other things that they don't even provide for us Americans who were actually born here and have been paying taxes our entire lifetime. Go try pulling that in Mexico. Yeah, go wander across the border in Mexico and go too deep into the country without the right papers, or overstay your visa period, and you'll find yourself locked up by angry men with long guns real quick. We have a mission in Mexico, so I know. I've seen it happen. It's not pretty. So while this happens in other countries, now all of a sudden, all we hear about is how these masked men in unmarked vans are disappearing people off the street. Oh, cry me a river. I'm really just sick of it all. I said I'd be back Monday, but oh, God willing, I will be. The fight between President Trump and blue states has escalated over the government shutdown. In the past few weeks, the Trump administration has used the Democrats' play to shut down the government against them by canceling or freezing federal dollars for various projects in Democrat-controlled areas, which frequently use taxpayer dollars for programs like DEI. That run contrary to the president's pre-existing executive orders. According to a recent New York Times report, the president's administration has paused or canceled almost $28 billion in blue congressional districts and states, as he should. Scott Perry, Republican from Pennsylvania, explained how he viewed Trump's administration's decisions. Now, regarding this shutdown, the president has the unenviable task of making the selections of what gets funded and what doesn't in these circumstances. And look, this is a bipartisan vote that has happened to open the government, including Pennsylvania State's Senator John Fetterman. Perry voiced his support for the Trump administration's decision to withhold $40 million in funding from California over its lax English proficiency standards for truck drivers. You saw that big rig massacre, I don't know, a month or so ago, 2 months probably now. The guy somehow got a California, a CDL license has always been pretty difficult to get. I know I had a friend that tried, it took him like 5 tries at the test to get his CDL. But California, they're just issuing them like the daily newspaper. Here you go, have one. Here, have one. This guy that created this accident where people died, not only was in the country illegally, he had a California CDL. And because he couldn't read the road signs, he made an illegal U-turn. People died. We are going to have to say something about that because we don't want people killed by people that shouldn't be here illegally to support California's whatever their program is. So if that's what it takes to do that, I'm fully supportive of it. That's from Representative Scott Perry. New York real estate developer and TV star just outsmarted America's highly credentialed foreign policy establishment. Hamas recently returned its last 20 living hostages to Israel. That was part of a stunning Gaza peace plan announced earlier by President Donald Trump. Israel and Hamas both agreed to it. Hamas signed on even though it hadn't had a change of heart about its desire to destroy Israel. A coordinated squeeze forced Hamas to accept a deal it didn't want, according to the Wall Street Journal. Qatar and Turkey said they would not continue to host Hamas leaders. Egypt said it wouldn't try to ensure Hamas had a governing role in Gaza after the war. After 2 years of fighting, Hamas suddenly found itself isolated and abandoned by its allies. This didn't happen by accident. It required Trump's leadership and Israel's military brilliance. Now, think back to the propaganda press narrative after former President Joe Biden's 2020 victory. Joe Biden's cabinet picks send a clear message. The adults are back in charge, Vogue wrote in November of 2020. Now, what does Vogue know about politics? Well, obviously nothing. Joe Biden's message to Vladimir Putin, the adults are back in charge. That coming from CNN in June of 2021. Now, it's certainly true that Biden and his cabinet had impressive pedigrees. Biden had a law degree from Syracuse University. During his decades in the Senate, he never had an actual job. He chaired the Senate's Foreign Relations Committee. He served 8 years as vice president, visiting more than 50 countries. And he picked every pocket he could along the way. He selected Antony Blinken as Secretary of State. Blinken attended Harvard and Columbia. He had spent decades in various foreign policy positions, including serving as Deputy Secretary of State during the Obama administration. Oh, that's when Benghazi happened, huh? But those sterling resumes produced some pretty terrible results. In 2021, 13 American service members died as Biden surrendered in Afghanistan. In 2022, Putin invaded Ukraine. In 2023, Hamas attacked Israel, murdering around 1,200 and capturing hundreds of hostages. Now, the resumes of Trump and his team aren't nearly as impressive. Trump graduated from the Wharton School of Finance and Commerce. Overcoming setbacks and business bankruptcies, he largely became wealthy and famous through developing real estate. He later starred in the TV show The Apprentice. Secretary of State Marco Rubio once attended Tarkio College in Missouri and a community college before graduating from the University of Florida. He earned his law degree from the University of Miami. He did serve on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, also played a key role in securing the deal. Their backgrounds are primarily in real estate, not diplomacy. But Trump and his people did what Biden couldn't: secure the release of every living hostage and get Hamas to agree to a ceasefire. Now, Hamas may not keep its end of the deal. Hamas has been openly murdering its rivals in a bid to reclaim power. Notice how little angst supposedly pro-Palestinian groups have been about those deaths. Their actions suggest they don't care about the lives of Palestinians. They care about dead Palestinians who can be used to smear Israel. But Trump has told them if they don't get with the program that they agreed to, it's not going to be pretty. Now, he made that same promise to Iran, and, well, Iran no longer has a nuclear program, do they? And here's my last news. To help close Chicago's nearly $1.2 billion budget shortfall, Mayor Brandon Johnson is proposing a new tax targeting social media companies. It's a move no other U.S. city has tried. Just like we tax other addictive vices that are bad for our health, like nicotine and tobacco, it is far past time to tax social media companies the same way. Under the proposal, social media platforms would pay 50 cents for every active user per month. The first 100,000 users would be exempt. City officials estimate the tax would generate $31 million annually to fund expanded crisis response and city-run mental health clinics. The plan, however, is already facing skepticism both from city council and legal experts. You've admitted that we would be the first in the nation to do this. How confident are we of the city's legal standing to even levy the tax? That came from the alderman of the 42nd Ward, who was asking the city's budget director during a council hearing Tuesday. Legal experts say the tax will not hold up in court. On its face, frankly, it's unconstitutional. The Supreme Court ruled in 1983, you cannot single out media for special tax treatment, and that's what Chicago is doing here. The city can tax businesses broadly, but the moment you pick out specific media companies, it becomes constitutionally suspect. They're going to have to find this money from somewhere else because it simply won't survive the inevitable legal challenge. And guess what? Let me tell you, under the proposal, social media platforms would pay 50 cents for every active user per month. First 100,000 would be exempt. So, if you think Bezos is going to eat that? Do you think Zuckerberg's going to eat that? You think the X platform is going to eat that? No. It would have to be. Facebook's been free from the beginning. Yeah, you got to put up with all the annoying ads and all the trolls and all the nonsense. But if you want to cut Facebook's traffic in half, start charging 50 cents a month. I rest my case. There's too many other places to go. I'll show you my latest project. We'll go to the charts here in just a second. Show you my latest project I'm working on. It's called dun 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 dun. Come on now. Nope, I didn't do it. Let's try it again. Well, that don't look right. All right. Anyway, pray, seek, find. This is going to be a company and a website that is dedicated to people in retirement or reaching retirement age. People who like to travel, people who have health issues, people who have insurance questions and finance questions and all kinds of other stuff. And so we're about to enter our first round. Journey beyond the ordinary. Embark on a spiritual journey where the ordinary dissolves into the extraordinary, and every moment is a new horizon waiting to be explored. Blaze trails across uncharted territories and redefine what it means to travel the world with fellow conservative believers. PraySeekFind.com. I've had the domain for many years. I just never had a chance to build it out, but I now found the time, and so the business plan's almost complete. The pitch deck's almost complete. Starting to line up all of the affiliates that will appear on the site. So just thought I'd give you a peek. All right, now let's go where we normally go. If you go there now, it's just going to say that the site doesn't exist yet, or whatever it is it says. But shortly, I'll probably be launching it. I'll do a soft launch in about 2 weeks, but the hard launch is still probably a month out. That's what I'm thinking. Man makes plans, God laughs, right? Okay. I think John Lennon said that. Okay, Logic 247. That's our 24/7 around-the-clock E-mini alert service. It's not just E-minis, it's also crude, gold, and silver. Over the last 377 weeks, we've issued over 20,800 individual handcrafted alerts. I told you earlier in the week we were approaching 20,800, so I think we went over 800. So over 377 weeks, which is a little over 7 years, we issued over 20,800 individual handcrafted Logic 247 alerts, and what we've averaged on a weekly basis is 20% or less of the alerts being stopped out based on simple market structure and a simple process we teach all of our passport holders. Valerie did the recap this morning at 6:30 a.m. Eastern. So a lot of things have probably changed since then. So of course she will update the recap this afternoon, early evening, as she does each and every day. But at the time she did the recap this morning, 6:30 a.m. Eastern, since the markets opened Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, we've issued a total of 35 Logic 247 alerts this week. One never triggered. Still waiting on the outcome of 16. That gives us 18 actionable alerts, of which 3 or 17% would have been stopped out based on simple market structure and a simple process we teach all of our passport holders. Every Logic alert has an entry price, long or short, an initial target designed to help you get your goal for the day, and then usually additional targets and then a final trade to target. The real purpose of the Logic alerts, yes, you can trade them to help pay for your education, but the real purpose is to teach you how to read a chart. If you're going to ever trade for a living, you've got to be able to read a chart. And reading a chart means knowing where to anticipate potential resistance and where to anticipate potential support. Nobody knows what's going to happen next in the market. But once you know how to read the charts and understand how to use a very simple set of indicators, you can know with a great deal of probability what the next high probability move is. Like I said, it's been over 7 years, and on a weekly basis, 20% or less of the alerts get stopped out. So, the Logic alerts can come out anytime around the clock. Futures trade around the clock. We have traders around the globe. Our day session is their night session and vice versa. Now, 377 weeks, that's a very long time. As I said, a little over 7 years. But long before we had a Logic 247, years before, we had our original alert service, the Concierge Trade Alerts. And they're different. They're different in a number of different ways. But for the purpose of this conversation, I'll just say this. They don't come out around the clock. They're published as a static report shortly before the Globex open each evening, typically 5:55 p.m. Eastern. Now, the Wednesday session that we're in did not start this morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. That's just when Wall Street opened. The Wednesday session began last night at 6 p.m. Eastern. So all of our traders and trial members had all of these targets 5 minutes before the market opened last night. So as we go through each one of these markets in granular fashion, and you see these targets drawn out on the screen, just remember, all our folks had them before the market even opened. S&P 500, the Dow, the Russell, crude oil, the NQ, gold, and silver. So, with that, let us go to the charts. Start where we always do, the S&P 500 E-mini futures. Now look at that red candle. It came all the way down to the BBC. Now look at red and falling. It's turned to blue and climbing. Red and falling is bearish. Okay. We consolidated. We had a pullback that held for 6 days. This right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you might say, well, why do you say it held? Because every one of them is touching the BBC. That's the green line. You see, price always reverts to the mean. Doesn't matter what kind of market you're trading, what kind of time frame you're using, price always reverts to the mean. Doesn't matter what kind of strategy or methodology that you're using, price always reverts to the mean. In our case, the mean is green. It's called the BBC. Stands for bull, bear, cross. When price crosses below the green line, we're bearish and expect lower prices. When price crosses back above the green line and then confirms the following day by opening and closing above the green line, we then go from bearish to bullish. And as you can see, the pullback held, the pullback held, the pullback held until it didn't hold April 24th. And then April 25th, we got our confirmation. We've officially gone from bearish to bullish. And the very first pullback held. And the next one held. The next one held. The next one held. This one strung out over 3 days. Okay. And then the next pullback held. That strung out over 4 days. This pullback held for 3 days. This pullback held for 2 days. This was a 1-day pullback. And then we had a 6-day pullback. And we ran up to the 50% fib extension. Now, right here is the all-time historic intraday high. And on that day, after putting in a new all-time historic high, look where the market closed, substantially lower. Now, the previous day, right there, that's the all-time historic closing high, 68.03 1/4. So, after the 6-day pullback, price bounced off the BBC finally up to the 50% fib extension, which we have talked about every day, which we expected to be resistance, and it has been now for 1, 2, 3 days. Now remember, this candle started last night at 6 p.m. Eastern, and it pushed price all the way down to the BBC. And do you see how red and falling has turned to blue and climbing? Now that'll be short-lived. If we close below blue and climbing, it'll go back to red and falling. Red and falling is bearish. Okay? Blue and climbing is bullish. So based on the fact that we bounced like that for 2 days, that's why the blue kicked in. How we close today will be so important to what's going to happen the next of the week. Not only did we find support at the BBC and blue and climbing, but also at the 24% fib extension. That's where the horizontal line of my cursor is, right there. Okay? So again, market still has some work to do to get through that. And we're in earnings season. And as I mentioned earlier, of the companies that have reported so far, I mean, we're just now getting into earnings season, but of the companies that have reported so far, 85% have beat their estimates. But we are so overdue. You see, to keep a market healthy, a bull market, this is how price travels. Lag retracement, lag retracement, lag retracement, lag retracement, lag retracement, lag retracement, lag retracement. Okay? But you see the fib retracements here? They're based off the low that was put in on this day, April 7th. If you look at your daily chart, you'll see that the most important substantial low is this one right here. So we've drawn the fibs from the low of April 7th to the all-time historic high, which was put in right here, October 9th. Now, remember, that was the intraday high, which didn't end well. In fact, it led to the Friday where everybody thought the world was coming to an end. But look at the grand scheme of things. This coming Friday, I guess it'll make 2 weeks. This was a very painful day, but we only made it about halfway to the 24% fib retracement. That's the shallowest possible fib retracement. Now, what happens to a market if it doesn't get healthy pullbacks, like 24% retracements, 38% retracements, 50% retracements? You know what happens? Black Mondays. Yeah, that's what happens. And that's what I'm worried about with this market, and I've been concerned for some time. Okay? Trees don't grow to the sky, neither do markets. We're getting so close to the end of the year now. See, before I was saying the fund managers need to let this thing come back to the 24, better the 38, even better the 50. Then we can stage a mega rally into the end of the year. Okay? But they're running out of time. These big shots on Wall Street with the Homes and the Hamptons, okay, their year-end bonuses are going to depend upon, in many cases, where the S&P 500 closes the year. Now, it wasn't too many years ago that we had the worst December since 1938. Yep. That's when John was still a co-host and still alive. I mean, does it look to you like the market's going lower or going higher? Now remember, it's got support times 3 that it's got to overcome. But for the market to rise, it takes financial commitment. But for this to happen, and what's happening today, all that's required is for the institutional traders to hit pause on the buy side. Doesn't mean they're never going to buy again. It just means that they recognize that this market is overdone, cooked, needs a cooling off period, so they stop buying. Maybe they even start unwinding some positions. Now, when that happens, the funds that specialize in short selling, they come out of the woodwork and they drive that sucker down because there's no resistance. There's nobody standing on the bid. Some of the easiest money in the world if you're in a position to take advantage of it. So, let me say again, where we close today, very important. If we close below these 3 things, the BBC, blue and climbing, and the 24% retracement, if we close below that today, or tomorrow, or Friday, then the next Major support is down here at the 0 line on the fib extensions. And then this low from October 17th. And then this low from October 10th. And then this low right here from September 2nd. And then you're almost to the 24% fib retracement. Now, what you want to see is a measured move, like a down day, get a leg and then a retracement, just like on the way up. What do we have? We had leg retracement, leg retracement, leg retracement, leg retracement. It took from April 24th to get up to the all-time historic high. But when a market is artificially held up for too long, all of a sudden one morning everybody wakes up and says, wow, this thing's overbought. And the heck with the year-end bonus. I'll do better next year. They just let it go. It's probably been, 7, 8 years ago. It was the worst December since 1938. You always hear about the Santa Claus rally. Yeah, there wasn't one that year. So, anyway, that's the big picture story. And I'm sticking to it. All alerts, the Logic 247 alerts and the Concierge Trade alerts are all created on the 30-minute chart. Nothing magic about 30 minutes. It's just the time frame I chose years ago. They say if it's not broke, leave it alone. So you're welcome to use the 30-minute, or you can find, some larger than a range chart time frame that works for you. But don't be hopscotching around every day. Pick something, stick with it. All right. So the vertical lines separate today, Wednesday. Back here's Tuesday. Over here is Monday. The horizontal lines are the weekly trading zones. They're published every Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. Once they're published, they're carved in stone for the entire week. They do not change in any way whatsoever. This was the opening candle last night. Remember, all of our traders and trial members had these targets 5 minutes before the market opened. So we're just going sideways here, hugging the BBC. The first real opportunity you would be interested in would be like this candle right here. Okay. Why? It's above the BBC. You have the support of blue and climbing. It just doesn't get any better. So that candle opened at 79.5. So let's just call it 67.80. And it ran up to 88. So 8 points in that one candle. You only need 2 points to get your goal for the day. Now, this candle almost touched it. Nor is it. Can I get a read on it? Yeah, that's only 88.75 too. So, well, that's almost to the zone. Yeah, I thought we were far off, but the high here was 88. So we only missed the target by 2 points. This candle gave us 8 points. We missed the target by 2 points. Okay. When the market finds resistance, which is based off this, it's going to go look for support, which it found at the BBC, and it hung in there for a while. And then right here at 10 o'clock. Now this was the 9:30 opening candle. When you see a 9:30 opening candle like that, something's wrong. Okay. Because the 9:30 opening candle is usually the largest candle of the day. What did it look like yesterday? Very similar. Okay. So when Wall Street opens and this thing doesn't jump one way or another or both ways, Those are not normal market conditions. So price came down to the weekly trading zone, 58/59, consolidated. When price encounters a weekly trading zone, only one of three things happens. 70% of the times consolidation, 20% of the times a rejection, 10% of the time the slice. The slice is when a 30-minute candle slices through a weekly trading zone like it's not even there. What typically happens when that happens, when the move runs out of steam, price will typically retrace to the zone it sliced through and then continue in the direction of the slice. So as you can see, it was on the 12:30 30-minute candle that we hit the short target and got back above it, and we hit it again. Okay. Now, this candle opened at 67.34, and so to the target, that's 9 points. But look how far it dropped. Can I get it? Come on. Let me try this way. Oh, there it comes. Okay, from 34, come on now, from 34.25, we dropped all the way to 98. That's 36 points. The low was 66.98. The open was 34.25. We're calling it 34. So 34 and 2 is 36. That's 36 points. You only need 2 points to get your goal for the day. Then price gets back above the target and gives you another opportunity. Okay. Now, why did price stop where it stopped? Will the chart tell us? Why, yes, it will, as it so often does. Follow the horizontal line of my cursor to the left. See, you should have been expecting support here. And when it traded through there, then your next spot's right here. And there it is. People always ask me, how far left do I have to look? As far as you need to. This is Wednesday, this is Tuesday, this is Monday. So this low, Monday, which is actually Sunday night, right? Yep. This low put in Sunday night became this low today. Support always sends the market looking for resistance, which it found at the black step line. When the black step line is directly above price, it becomes potentially good resistance. It was on this candle, and this candle, and this candle, and this candle. Okay. Now the current candle opened at 31 and dropped 6 points to the target, but then continued down, and now we got another candle opening below the target. Okay. Now, if you look at the black step line, it's just barely starting to lean to the right. If the step line crosses from the left side of red and falling to the right side, then you should expect price to retrace, possibly to the underside of the short target, possibly to the step line, possibly to red and falling, or all the way to the BBC. Now you've got potential support at the previous candle. That's what we're testing right now. Okay. Now this candle has a low of 66.98. So you could get in at 67.02 And you got 4 points on deck down to this low. If it makes it through this low, looking left, you got no other obstacles in your path all the way down to the zone, which is 6670/71. So let's say you enter a short position at 92. You might be able to ride it all the way down to 72. It's 20 points. 20-point move, even trading 1 micro, you can make a living at that. The Dow. Here's where we opened. Price is trapped. Red and falling overhead, resistance. The BBC below, support. Support holds, gives us a little bounce. Not much. What's important to note is that this bounce failed to take out this high right here. That's a sign of weakness. Resistance sends price down to the zone, support, which bounces it back up to the BBC resistance, which sends it back to the zone, support, which sends it back to the BBC resistance, which then sends it all the way down to the short target, right here. Support, now the short target. Right here, do you see where the step line attempted to cross blue and climbing and then hooked back in the other direction? That creates an important price, important area. That candle, and that candle. All hell, that support area. Okay. Finally, we broke through it. And then this candle took us all the way down. And we spiked the weekly trading zone, but look where we closed, way back up here. And then the next candle took us down to the zone and found support at the zone. The zone is 46,750/55. And we've already caught like a 30-point bounce off the zone. You only need 20 points to get your goal for the day. The Russell. Remember, the Russell was leading to the downside. We opened right here. Now, on the first move, we didn't get all the way to the target, but that's okay. Let's say you got in on the open of this candle, okay? Because conditions are perfect. So you get in at 24.95, and the low of this candle is, well, it's 2 points. Goal for the day, okay? That bounces us back up to resistance, the BBC. And we got a little bit above the BBC, but if we look left, we can see that there should be potential resistance right here. The fact that price was unable to overcome that resistance, that's bearish. Okay. Now this happened right here is the London Open. Okay. Blue and climbing turns to red and falling, takes us down to the short target and the weekly trading zone where we consolidate. That's what happens 70% of the time. And we bounce up into the BBC resistance. That sends us down to the zone support. And look at the bounce. From the zone at 64.65, we bounced all the way up to 76. And then the next candle took us back to the zone. We consolidated. Then we hit the zone below. And that zone, we spiked it a little bit, but look where we closed. Way up here. And then it moved back down. Now look where the step line, look what it's doing. See how it's starting to hook right? Because the market seems to have found a bottom here at this zone that was published Monday morning. Okay. So if we continue to consolidate at this zone, that black step line is going to cross over to the right side of red and falling. When it does, expect a retracement. Possibly only back to the zone, but most likely back to the BBC. Now, does that happen every single time? Very few things happen every time. Does it happen more often than not? Well, it has since 2005. That's when I started trading futures, so I can only vouch for that. In Q, this was the opening candle last night. We're below the BBC. We have red and falling, so what do we expect? Lower prices. We drop to the zone, publish Monday morning, and find support, just like we did yesterday. Okay? Support, support. This support sends us up. We get a leg, a retracement, and a leg. We don't quite make it all the way, but this candle here, all conditions are proper to go long. So the open is 25,290, and we go up to 25,330. So that's 40 points at $20 a point. That one little green candle right there, $800 per contract traded. And you didn't even get to the target. Well, we go sideways. Now you see this high right here. The target was based off this high right here. The fact that we failed to get there, and blue and climbing, then turned to red and falling. Here come lower prices. Now, I only put one of the lines of the zones on. Like this is 25,225/26. This is 465/466. Okay. So we come down to the zone. We come down to the zone. We come down to the zone. And then finally, we trade through the zone. Okay. And we hit the target to the tick. Now, what's that based on? The bullish cross that happened on Monday. When the blue line gets above the green line, that's called a bullish cross. When you have a bullish cross that leads to an extended move, the first time price revisits that area will almost always be good support. And it was. It bounced us. When this candle opened, it ran up to 176. That's 60. That's about a $1,200 per contract bounce. Okay. Then we get through the short target. When we trade through one of the targets, the retracement that follows, because that's how markets work, leg retracement, leg retracement. The underside of that short target will often become good resistance, as it did on this candle, on this candle. Then it sent us down almost to the zone. Support bounced us all the way back up. And then this next candle, right here, it opened at we'll call it 24,990. From 990 to 850, that's 140 points. It's $2,800 per contract traded. And remember, you had the zones Monday morning, and you had these targets 5 minutes before the market opened last night. Crude oil actually catching a break today to the upside. Crude's really been beaten down. So here's the open on crude last night. We get a retracement to the BBC and the zone. That's support times 2, the pullback holds. And that sends us all the way up to the long target. This candle opened at 57.71 and ran up 35 points to the target. But it actually went all the way to 58.37. It traded through it, see? You can get out at the target, or if it's a strong move, you can stay with it. But notice, see how on the pullback, support, the top side of the long target became support on the pullback. Once, twice. Here you got support times 2. You got the top side of the long target and the BBC. So you get another leg and another retracement. The pullback holds. Another leg, another retracement. The pullback holds. Another leg and a retracement, and the pullback holds. The pullback holds more often than not, but eventually it will trade through. Okay? So, looks like we're trying to get another retracement. Is it going to hold? I don't know. Nobody knows. But we know this. Pullback holds more often than it doesn't. So you just simply have to be prepared. Let it pull back. And then where does it close? Does it close above? Does it close below? Then what does the next candle do? For any more long trades, you've got to have a candle open and close above the BBC after the pullback. For any short trades, you need a candle to open and close below the BBC. Okay? Or you could just come down here and say 58.15 to 58.05. That's a beautiful window of opportunity. And that gives you your goal for the day. If you're trading one contract, it's $100. If you're trading 10 contracts, it's $1,000. And then we have tore up from the floor up, the metals. Here's the opening candle last night. We didn't even attempt to pull back to the BBC. This thing just dropped. Okay? Dropped right through the short target. Now, this candle opened at 4106.8. So we're going to just call it 4106 to be real conservative. You see, 4106. Down to the target is $700 per contract traded. Out to the low of the candle. Goodness gracious. What was the low? 40.21. We'll call it 22. So we opened at 4106 and dropped to 40.21. That's like that's $8,000 per contract traded in the entire candle. Okay. The market found support for some reason. How far you gotta look? As far as you need to. At 11. Okay, right here. Okay. Is that an area that I would have isolated and said, yeah, that's going to be the spot? No. I'll just be honest with you. Let's see, what's this price here? What's the low? 40.21. Okay. So let's go over here where we can actually see it. Where's 40.21? Okay. We had a pullback. Now, this was an opening candle, okay, which found support at the BBC. So I'm always going to just be honest with you. I wouldn't have picked 4021. I don't have anything here telling me to pick 4021. If I had to pick something, I'd have picked this, which is 4057. Or I might have picked this, 4004, which we haven't got to yet, but we could. Where's that 4056 number I saw? Ah, right here. Okay, so we get a retracement to the BBC, the zone, and the underside of the short target. That's resistance times 3, which sends us down to blue and climbing. When blue and climbing gets directly below price, it becomes potential support. That sent price back up to the BBC, resistance. So right now, gold is trapped between resistance at the BBC and support at blue and climbing. Silver. Well, it'd be nice if this was a transition. It's kind of what it looks like, but I don't know if we're over to the downside yet. We'll see. In God's hands. All right, here's the open last night. Remember, you only need 2 pennies in silver to get your goal for the day. Here's the open. Price is trapped. We get below blue and climbing. Okay. 47.87 down to 47.64. It's about $1,000 per contract traded. Then the next candle, okay, it opens here, runs all the way down here. A $1 move in silver is worth $5,000 per contract traded. Support will always send the market looking for resistance, which it found. This pullback held, this pullback held, this pullback held, but then pullback held on the other side. You see, we get a retracement. See, down here, we're pulling up to the BBC, but over here, we're pulling down. Pulling up, the pullback held, pulling down, the pullback held. Did I mention the pullback holds more often than not? Now, this high right here, is that a spot I would have suggested as potential resistance? No. Right here might have been. Okay. See how the step line crossed back to the left side of red and falling? That marks an important price, important area. So, I mean, look at all of the logic alerts. Over 20,800. Every one of them my best work. Yet, still 20% or less on a weekly basis has gotten stopped out. So, you'll never hear me tell you that I know what's going to happen next in the market. In fact, I love telling people I have no clue what's going to happen next in the market. Because they get this weird glazed over look. Wait a minute. You want me to hire you to teach me how to trade and you don't know what's going to happen next in the market? Yeah, I'm the first person that's actually told you the truth. Nobody knows what's going to happen next. No algorithm, no nothing. Why? There's too many factors. I know I've used this analogy a lot of times, but imagine every trader in the world, both professional and retail trader, all sitting around a big table. Kind of like they're playing poker, right? One of the guys, we'll call him the institutional trader, he pushes a mountain of chips into the middle of the table. Or he puts on a massive order to buy, 50 S&P contracts or 100 S&P contracts, whatever. And everybody else, they're like pushing in and they're pushing their chips in because this guy apparently knows, what he's doing, whatever. And then right before the dealer reveals the river card or whatever, I'm not a card guy, but before the guy reaches out, grabs before the card's revealed, he reaches out and grabs his stack of chips and pulls them back. Gets up and walks away from the table. Now, nobody knows why he did that, but it shows up in the DOM. There was this huge order to buy or this huge order to sell, and it vanished. Now, sometimes it's tomfoolery, sometimes it's trickery. Sometimes there's a term for it. It's illegal. It's called spoofing. It means you got an account big enough that you can put on an order that you have you are not going to let that thing trigger. Okay? It's a dangerous game. Because number one, you can lose all your money, and number two, you can go to prison. But let's say it isn't a spoof. The guy just pulls his mountain of chips back, gets up, walks out of the room. Remember, all the traders in the world are sitting around this great big table. Everybody's side-eyeing each other, wondering, dang, wonder why he did that, And so what do other players do? They grab their stack of chips and they pull them back. And some other wise guy who didn't push his chips in now pushes some in. So people are confused. Well, here's the real story. The guy that did what he did, he had indigestion. That's all. Too much bacon. His doctor warned him about that. Indigestion, heartburn, or heart attack. Oh, let me walk down to the corner drugstore and get some antacid and find out. So that's all it was. Indigestion. But it changed the course of events, not only for the next few minutes, but forever. It's like the butterfly effect. Butterfly flaps its wings in the Amazon, and all of a sudden it starts raining in Seattle. It rarely stops raining in Seattle. But hopefully you get my point. That's why no one's ever going to develop anything that's going to be able to tell you with 100% certainty what's going to happen next in the market. It's just not possible. There's too many people, too many traders, too many factors. Period. Always remember that. Because there's people out there that are going to try to convince you different. Oh, we can read tomorrow's headlines today. Yeah. Just send your check. Send your payment before midnight tonight and we get it sooner. Yeah. I need a sound effect for that. Send your money before midnight tonight and we get it sooner. Okay. All right. So we're on the same page. All right. So we hit a spot where some guy pulled his chips back. We were climbing, and then without a valid reason that we can pinpoint, okay? Because price always moves from support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, over and over again and again. But about 20% of the time or less, you're going to get something like this. Now, if I were to go through a bunch of different time frames, a 10-minute chart, a 20-minute chart, a 45-minute chart, a 4-hour chart, I could probably find a chart that gives me a reason I could hang my hat on as to why that happened. Oh, well, on the 10-minute chart, it's clear, blah, blah. Right. But don't be a time traveler. You will waste more time and treasure than you could even imagine, okay? You got to pick a time frame and stick with it. Now, if you want to go with the 30-minute, I can personally attest to the fact that it's been tried and true for many years. There's thousands of traders out there that have come through our halls and use the 30-minute chart as their roadmap, not to execute the trade, but so that they know what side of the trade they should be on. I mean, think about it. If you're just looking at a range chart, sometimes things work out, sometimes you get stopped out. What if you could only take the trades that favored the greater trend? You can do that? Is that legal? Of course it is. You gotta learn to use multiple time frames, okay? So the only way I'm gonna take a short using a range chart is if price is below the BBC on the 30-minute chart and it's printing a red candle. See, like this candle right here? I would absolutely go to my range chart and look for a short entry because we're printing a red candle and we're below the BBC. Over here, just the opposite. On this candle, once it starts printing green, go to my range chart and look for a long opportunity. Why? Because price is above the BBC. I have the support of blue and climbing. So I naturally anticipate higher prices. This candle opened at 48.18 and ran up over 20 cents. Okay, that's $1,000 per contract traded. Now, getting out at the exact swing high and the exact swing low, that only happens by accident or luck, and we're not about luck. Okay. This isn't gambling. This is why you never hear me talk about my winners and losers. I talk about profitable and non-profitable trades. Some people show up at their trading platform every morning hoping they're going to have a winning day. Let me ask you a question. If you worked in a widget factory and your job was to make widgets, would you go to work every day and sit there for 8 hours hoping you're going to get paid? Even worse, you go there and hope you're going to get paid, but instead they deduct money from your earnings. Whoa. Who wants that kind of job? Well, I got news for you. That's the kind of job trading is. When I hear people tell me, well, after I get stopped out twice and I just walk away, you're never going to become a trader. Because getting stopped out is as much a part of trading as breathing is a part of life. Okay? And until you accept that, you will not find success in the world of trading. In the live training room, you've seen Michael get stopped out twice in a row, 3 times in a row, probably 4 times in a row. What if he just walked away every day? Oh, guys, sorry, we've only been open 15 minutes, but we're going to have to close the shop because I got stopped out X number of times. What does he do? He trades through it. And you have to be able to do the same. And you're like, well, I don't have an account size as big as his. Okay. Well, whatever size his account is, it probably didn't start out at that size. So maybe you need to trade the micros. Now, I know that's a slow grind, but that's one way of increasing the amount of capital you have in your account. And there are other benefits to micros, like with the NQ. Sometimes there's a lot more liquidity with the micro. Let me just say there's no shame in trading the micro. Okay? All right. And you can trade, because there's more liquidity, you can trade 2 micros, 3 micros. If you traded 5 micros, that would be equivalent to half of one E-mini contract. Remember, the micro is 1/10 the size of a regular E-mini contract. Think about it. If you trade 5 ES micros, it's like you're trading half of one E-mini contract. So instead of your risk being $100 per contract, it's only $50 per contract. Okay. We get back below the BBC, we hit the short target, and we hit the weekly trading zone at 47.35. And then we catch a bounce. And it takes us up to an area where I would have anticipated resistance. You see where this candle, it was green when it opened, but it hit the BBC and ground to a halt. Same thing here. Sent price back to the BBC. Sent price back to blue and climbing. Then back to the BBC. And then here we are. We're printing a green candle. We got blue and climbing, but we're below the BBC. And it looks like that blue and climbing, because it's directly above price. If price doesn't hurry up and get above blue and climbing, this is what happens. It turns to red and falling, bearish. So we need price to get out of bed and get above blue and climbing. Then price has a chance of making a run back to this high, back to this high, back to this spot, this high, even the long target. But if price just sits here or consolidates sideways, that sucker's going to turn to red and falling, and we're going to get a drop. Possibly to here, possibly to here, and then here. And that's the low of the session right there, 46.82. Not pretty if you're in silver. Okay, the daily chart, one last look. Got this big red candle bearing down on the BBC, blue and climbing, and the 24% fib extension. Again, I'll be out tomorrow and Friday. Michael will be here for the morning session, and I think he'll do an abbreviated afternoon session both days. God willing, I'll be back in my chair Sunday night to make sure all the alerts go out on time and the weekly zones go out Monday morning on time. In the meantime, you should become a member. Email Valerie, support@cfrn.net. Just let her know you want to become a member. She'll send you the information you need to get signed up. Once you're signed up, then she's going to send you more stuff. You're not going to even know what to do with some of it, or even what it is. Just create a folder in your email client, and everything Valerie sends you, put it in that folder, okay? Because there'll come a time during your learning journey with us. It'll be the middle of the night, a weekend, a holiday. You'll need something And you go, wow, I don't have that. Now, during, the week, during normal, we operate around the clock. You basically get around the clock support via Telegram. But I'm just talking about the time when none of us are here. All you got to do is go to that folder you created in Telegram. Not in Telegram, in your email client. Because that's where we know what new people need. So we make sure we send it all in one packet in the beginning. I think she breaks it down into 2 packets because there's so much stuff, it won't all fit in one email. So whatever you need, it's there. Well, once you're all signed up, you're an official member, a passport holder, you're going to get 2 hours of live training every trading day. That's in an interactive environment with a real person and real trades and all that. You'll also get private one-on-one mentoring at your request. You just got to ask. The strategy you learn, the indicators you own as a passport holder are fluid across all markets and all time frames. This isn't just for futures. No. Our strategy and our indicators work just fine on stocks, crypto, Forex, ETFs. Price flow is the same across all markets and all time frames. But you got to be able to read the chart. You got to know where to anticipate support and where to anticipate resistance. That's achieved by the Logic 247 alerts, which come out around the clock. Even if you never trade a Logic 247 alert, you can still use them to learn how to read the chart. That's why they're created. The fact that you can trade them, well, that's just a bonus. You'll also get the concierge trade alerts every evening the second they're published, typically 5 minutes ahead of the Globex open. Which brings up a question. Since I'm going to be off tomorrow and Friday, will I publish Logic alerts tonight or the CTAs tonight? Yeah, maybe I will. Okay, maybe I'll go ahead and publish them. But then you won't hear from me other than in the Breeze channel. You know me, when I go somewhere, I always take a lot of pictures and upload them to the Breeze channel. If you haven't looked at the Breeze channel lately, go look at that picture that somebody at our church took of the baptism pool behind our church this past Saturday. It's unbelievable. The sun was setting. It was just, because we have so much copper in the soil and other minerals here in Arizona, we get these incredible sunsets at certain times of the year. Every Monday morning, as a passport holder, you're going to get the weekly trading zones. Once they're published, they're carved in stone for the entire week. Every Thursday night, you'll be invited to the members-only workshop. And last but not least, you'll get the golden keys that open all the private channels in Telegram. Everything a trader needs, all under one roof, one low price. How low? $5,000. $49.97 to be exact. Unless you're a veteran, we will give you a discount to thank you for your service. Now, when you weigh that against all the time and treasure you've spent so far trying to learn how to trade, it's kind of a no-brainer. Because not only are you going to have hands-on training and assistance, literally around the clock, it's going to be something that's so simple that you don't have to spend months, years learning. Just show up, pay attention. You'll start out in your demo account. And as soon as you put together 10 consecutive days in a row in your demo account, then you'll get the green light to start trading real money. You start with one contract. Well, gee, that's only $100 a day. Okay. Once you put together 20 consecutive trading days, you get the green light to use that profit to add a second contract. Once you've added another $2,000 to your account, you'll get the green light to add a third contract. So 2 points a day in the ES with one contract's worth $100. By the time you earn the right to trade 5 contracts, it's $500 a day. Most people, that's a pretty good living. And if you want to work your way out all the way up to 10, it becomes $1,000 a day. It's $250,000 a year. But remember, you're showing up at a job where there's no guarantees. Remember, when you go to the widget factory, you show up there every day because you know at the end of the week you're going to get paid. With trading, not only may you potentially not earn money today, you may potentially have some of your previous earnings taken away. Are you sure you really want that kind of job? Risk favors the bold. Okay, good word for the day, and I'm out of here. The shadow cannot hurt you. You all know this scripture, Psalm 23, verse 4. Yea, I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Pastor writes, the great preacher, Dr. Donald Gray Barnhouse, whose first wife died, was driving his kids home from the funeral. One of the kids said, Daddy, where did Mommy go? I don't understand what it means that she died. Just then, a truck passed by and cast a shadow over the car. He said, Kids, would you have rather been hit by the truck or hit by the shadow? Then he said, Kids, when you die without Christ, you are hit by the truck. When you die with Christ, you're only hit by the shadow. Paul writes, we want you to know what will happen to the believers who have died, so you will not grieve like people who have no hope. For since we believe that Jesus died and was raised to life again, we also believe that when Jesus returns, God will bring back with him the believers who have died. We tell you this directly from the Lord. We who are still living when the Lord returns will not meet him ahead of those who have already died. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a commanding shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet call of God. First, the Christians who have died will rise from their graves. Then, together with them, we who are still alive and remain on the earth will be caught up in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. Then we will be with the Lord forever. 1 Thessalonians 4:13 through 18. And you know what? If you have a little one, or grandkids, or great-grandkids, if you ever have to explain death to them, I think this is a very nice way of explaining it so that they can identify with it. That's our good word for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, May God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.